Hey guys, this is Panzer, and welcome back to World of Tanks. Woo! And yes, we haven't really been playing this game much. My apologies for that. To be honest with you, I've been really getting into a bunch of other games. I've recently reinvigorated my love for Arma 3. Naturally, the Armored Warfare closed alpha access, early access. I keep saying alpha. The early access for that. I've been busy with that. We had the stream on Saturday. So that was busy. I've also been playing Wargame Red Dragon. I might make a video of that on some other time. But so generally speaking, we've had a fair amount of busyness, which meant that World of Tanks has naturally declined. So my apologies to all you World of Tanks fans out there. But never fear, because I am back making a quick video. I say quick. My videos are never quick. I am making a video today on doing a quick and nice dual review of low-tier tanks, because there's a particular tank that I wanted to have for a while, or that I didn't get a while back, that I originally wanted, and then because I was such a noob to this game, I missed it, kind of, and got up the other line of tech tree. This particular vehicle is the Panzer IV-H. There she is there. Now, when I originally started this game, because the tech tree did not look like this, it's completely different. If you're a veteran of World of Tanks and you've been playing this game since I have, then you'll know that the tech tree wasn't horizontal, it was vertical. There was, like, I think 3 or 4 lines in total. You literally had heavy, like, the heavy vehicles would split off into another line, but for the initial, it was either light, artillery, or heavy. And even then, artillery was like a few tiers up anyway. So it was very, very different in style. But when I went into this game, when I really started to properly play it, I wanted to go chronological. So I wanted the Panzer II, the Panzer III, to the Panzer IV. And when I did this, I thought it was great at first, and then I realized, to my complete and stupidity, being a noob that I was, that playing the game only properly for a few weeks, that the Panzer IV-H was on a separate line, so I couldn't get it. So I eventually gave up my pursuit to get to the Panzer IV, and instead got the Panzer III-4 to get the VK, to then get other heavy tanks. But no more, because now we're going to be getting the Panzer IV-H, and eventually I'll be doing a review on it. So what vehicles am I using to get there? Well, not the Panzer 38NA, nor the Panzer 38T. Though considering considering the vehicles I have at the moment, I wouldn't really mind switching. Well, one of them at least. These two vehicles that I'm using are this vehicle, the Panzer IV-A, and the Panzer IV-D. Now, what Wargaming are doing with these particular machines, apart from giving you another ability to get to the Panzer IV, is also kind of giving you a bit of a history lesson in the evolution of the Panzer IV tank. Because it didn't just start off with an L-48 and spaced armor. It originally started off with either a 50mm gun or a 75mm howitzer. So, this was in the early days of the Second World War, when Germany and most other nations around that time thought that the highest caliber would be a 50mm, that nobody would design a tank that could, bounce that off. And, Barbarossa happened. But either way, the development of German tanks at the time stated that this particular vehicle, you'll laugh, was designed originally to support the infantry with the 75mm howitzer, and the Panzer III, the lighter armoured vehicle, would be the main battle tank. Ironically, though, throughout the Battle of France in 1940, the roles would actually end up being reversed to a point where the Panzer IV was the main charger, and the Panzer III would be the supporter. Anyway, random history lesson out of the way. So today's video, we're going to be focusing on a quick review of both of these vehicles. So we're not going to go majorly in depth. I'm just going to give you a quick overhaul as to what I personally think, because it's a tier 3, so naturally a lot of these things are going to be poor. But my suggestions in the few games that I've had with these things for tactics and methods in which you can play and whatever. So without further ado, let's get started. So, the Panzerkampfwagen IV Ausführung A. Well, how'd you get to this machine? Well, first of all, you've got to go through the Panzer III-A. Now, when you've finally grinded through everything, you're given an option to potentially research your next vehicle. Either you either go along the Panzer III line to get to the Panzer III-A and to the Leopard line, the DW2 towards the heavy tank line, or the VK line, or finally you get this choice, which actually doesn't take you up a tier. Instead, it puts you still at tier 3. The question is it an upgrade? Well, no, not really. It's personally one of my least favourite, possibly the worst tier 3 in the game. In my opinion, you may have differing opinions, but in my eye, this is the worst tier 3 medium tank I have ever played in this particular game. And you'll see why. Now, there are benefits to this particular machine, but they are so few in number, it's really hard to justify them. Let's start with the hit points. The one big benefit that you do get with this particular tank, you get 270 hit points, unlike the Panzer 3A, which only gets 240. This is nice. It's as considering that you're in an environment where there are lots of lighter tanks out there with very fast-firing 20mm guns, the 30 hit points could mean the difference between life and death. So, something to take note when you are going into battle. Now, going on to other stuff, such as weight. Well, this is where the downside starts. Yeah, you're going a downhill slope. You're just going to slide now. First of all, you weigh more than the previous tank, being at 18.616 tons versus the 16.81 tons. Damn, if it was only 16.18. Anyway, so naturally, your maximum speed versus your horsepower, and in fact, there's actually a cheeky little bastard moment, because the Panzer III Ausführung A actually gets a much better engine than the Ausführung A for the Panzer IV. You only get the second engine on this particular... This vehicle gets the TRM, which is 440 horsepower, but this vehicle only gets the second engine on the Panzer IIIA, which is the TR. This is quite a cheeky move, because it only gives you 350 horsepower, thus giving you a total speed limit of about 42 kilometers per hour. Now, I personally didn't really reach those speeds very quickly. Like, it'll say here that the specific horsepower per ton is relatively good, but compared to this vehicle being at 26.17, you'll feel the difference. And for me, she's a bit sluggish. I'm not gonna lie, she felt quite sluggish. And, it just... In my eye, when I was driving this particular vehicle, I just couldn't get the maneuverability to work. Traverse-wise, did perfectly. Obviously, not being able to move as much as, say, the Ausführung A, but she did the job as necessary. But for top speed, it felt a bit sluggish. She didn't when it was starting the vehicle off, it felt like it took an extra few milliseconds, which can mean the difference between life and death. So, maneuverability-wise, certainly a downgrade. Naturally a downgrade. Sometimes certain downgrades work, and sometimes they don't. And this is the occasion where they don't, especially since it's a bit of a cheek not getting the better engine that you grinded in the previous tank. Now, going on to armor, this is where it really starts to kick you in the teeth. Because there is literally... you're downgrading. There's no upgrades to a downgrade with the armor, because you still have the 14mm of armor on the front, sides, and rear of this beast. It is that bad. And better still, or I say worse still, your 30mm of armor at the front turret only applies to the front turret. The 14mm of armor on the sides and rear just this smirk of little ha-ha of you, because the previous tank, you had 30. Even the rear of the fucking light tank has more armor than the one of the medium. And what kind of annoys me is the fact that it's like, I realised that at the beginning of its life, the Panzer IV was designed mainly to support infantry, but naturally you would assume that infantry would have anti-tank weaponry. Ergo, you should allow more armor for this particular beast. Now, I'm not saying you need to give it a shit ton of armor, but maybe 30, maybe give 30 to the front of this particular machine would be nice. Because 14 means that there is no gun that you can bounce. At all. No gun at all. There is no guns that you can bounce. You will be penned by everything. So, unless the god himself smacks Stalin in the face and says, "Don't you be trolling," and you somehow bounce, but I very much doubt you will bounce anything in this particular thing. So Panzer 1Cs will eat you up like butter and, bread. Derp guns will look at you like a chocolate Easter egg, and it's just going to be all over within like a less than a millisecond. So your armor is very much bad, which means naturally you can't really brawl with this thing, if ever. So keeping your distance is a good idea for this tank. Now, going down the tech tree, going down the list, you've got a pretty decent 44 traverse turret speed, so if you are ambushed, you can turn your turret. Your view range is 10 meters better than the Panzer 3A, but your radio range isn't as good as the Panzer 3A, as it's a light tank, gets access to the Volksspeer 1, which gives it a pretty decent 455 versus your shitty 415. So you're possibly going to be running out of radio room or range in higher, bigger maps. So yeah, this particular machine is really going to start dragging you down. Now let's get onto the guns, because even these things doesn't really give you much options. Now note, I don't like either of these guns. Both of these guns is no, just no. In my eye, no. But it's more of a case of the lesser of two evils. When you start this particular grind, you will see that you already start with this gun, the L42, which compared to, say, the L42 on the other tank, if we just delete that and quickly down, it is better stat-wise than the L42 on this particular vehicle. So there is a slight upgrade. It's ever so slight, though. If we go now to the L42 on the other tank, you'll see that the rate of fire is increased by about 3. The accuracy is is better by 2, and the aiming time is a pretty decent 1.9. Apart from that, though, it is virtually the same gun: 60 pen, 96 premium, 70 alpha, and that's it. That's virtually it's apart from accuracy and aiming time and rate of fire, virtually the same gun. So if you're a veteran of that gun and you enjoyed it, then it's a slightly better version of the gun, which is why I opted for this gun. But I did test this gun, the L24, and this is where I'm going to be saying to you about playstyle. Now, both of these guns aren't really good. They're not. In my eye, it's more of a lesser of two evils. Now, with this, this kind of is where I throw the ball into your court, because depending on how you play is how you will use this tank. Now, one gun is more flexible than the other, or has more flexibility than the other. English language fail. The L24, for me at least, as I said, it could be different for you, but for me, when I was using the L24, I had to stay at medium to long range. I was forced to stay at long range, because the moment I tried going close, my armor would suck balls and I would die. So naturally, this particular thing, this howitzer, really is a howitzer. And with that very terrible 0.5 accuracy, well, that's not too bad, but the rate of fire decrease in comparison to that, yeah. The accuracy and rate of fire meant that I had to stay at range. The aiming time, I will give it that, is not bad. It's actually pretty good being at 1.9, but still, the accuracy is pretty terrible. I had this one particular game where I had relatively decent success, but because I then wanted to push the line, so I pushed, I got close to one of the targets, the 0.5 accuracy made me miss, because RNG, and unfortunately I died very soon afterwards. So this particular gun, while it does have the higher alpha, and I imagine most people will be utilizing that ammo rather than this ammo, I imagine people can get higher alpha games where they'll do like maybe 1,200 or God forbid 2,000 damage, but once again, it is very much down to if RNG is with you and if you can actually hit, if you're in a tier 3 or 4 game, because tier 5 game, no chance of doing anything effective. So for this, it's a matter of you have to stay at long range and you have to make sure that your shot counts. So you have to aim, and even then, half of your shots will possibly miss, or more, depending on how RNG is. But this gun, a really bad choice, but a choice regardless. It's like I said, down to whether you prefer to derp or not. Now this gun, while it's not it's not much of an improvement considering the accuracy and the pen, it's still an improvement. It is a little bit more flexible. So, for example, if you are having to push the front lines, or if you are in a tight-knit map, you do have the ability to use your DPM to your advantage and get a fair amount of pens and damage. If you're in a sort of equivalent tier 3 match and you're in Ensk, for example, or whatever, you can push the line and do some damage and do a fair amount of destruction, which, can help you. It's more, I would say it has more flexibility just because of the fact that you can go close up to your opponents and hopefully out DPM them before they can really turn their guns on you, or you can potentially get some sneaky shots in and out like lightning before your opponent can notice you, which is a nice reassuring fact, though once again it is all dependent on whether you can utilize your very limited speed and maneuverability in order to get these kind of shots in. And even then, your accuracy means you either have to pray to the gods when you fire that you'll hit, or you have to waste a valuable 1.9 second aiming down the sight for a chance to hit your opponent. So I don't like either of these guns, but as it's the lesser of two evils, I eventually went to choose the L42, as it just seems to work much better than the L24. Anyhow, now we'll go into a game to hopefully show you what this thing is somewhat like. And we are back, and we are very fortuitously in a tier 3 game. So hopefully luck will be on our side and our team will hopefully win. If not, well, we'll hopefully just show you what this thing... I mean, in all honesty, because I'm not a big fan of this particular machine, I will just sort of do as much as I can and then sort of try and talk about it. So anyway, Panzer 4A, I'm so used to calling this Panzer 3. Panzer 4A, one of my least favorites. So as you can see, turning speed, yes, stuff is being shot, yes. As you can see, it's not got a bad maneuverability, but it is a bit annoying that you don't get the nice upgraded engine like the 440 horsepower, because being a slightly heavier, I reckon you make use of that. So slightly sluggish when it comes to turning. You really lose your speed when you're turning for some reason. I have no idea why, but for me, I've had I think it's a bit of a shock when you're utilizing this particular machine after using the Panzer 3A for a while, because all that speed and maneuverability gone, and what do you get? Slightly better gun, slightly more health. Oh yeah, and 10 extra view range. That's it. Radio not good. Ooh, yeah, you're in a Panzer 4A. Yeah, I don't know. I just with this particular machine, I just can't gel with it very much. It's quite annoying. Because also like when you are absolutely buggered if someone tries to go for you, you have to take exceptional care not to get like either spotted in the open or not. And there's a Panzer 3A just going to prove how effectively faster that thing is than you. Okay, seeming as it's a tier 3 game, I'm going to make the assumption, possibly to my demise. Are you taking shots? Or is he taking shots? Yeah, he's taking shots from the left. Take cover. Yep, I made the mistake of thinking that no one would take the hill. And they have. I'm going to take cover now. Reverse extra ways. I mean, the good news is we are killing them on the left. So we are killing them more than they're killing us, but they do have position on the hill. Hopefully the artillery will be awake this day, as I'm going to probably get myself killed. And there's a Panzer 2G. I'm going to get into some cover, because naturally he's going to spot me. Yep. So as you can see, that one burst of fire already buggered us, and I had to use both my repair and my medical kits in order to save myself from getting completely smushed. Because this, you cannot have a damaged engine, otherwise your maneuverability is just buggered. Right, let's see if we can save this. Well, see if we can do something about that hill. Because there's not, I reckon the UAE 57 and the PaK 40, which actually has some pretty decent armor, so I might have to consider getting better armor at some point. So might consider having to, I might just load premium now, to be honest with you, as this is where we need to make it count. Slightly more tree cover, which is nice. Killing these bastards quite quickly, which is a good thing. And we've knocked out their most armoured... well, they're nearly their most armoured vehicle. Let's get into a position to snipe. And is he in cover? Yes, he's behind a building. Move slightly up. Right, I have shots. Take your time. And too late. Ooh, I hate this gun. I missed the L60. I think it's the L60 on the Panzer III. I adore. Of all 50mm guns that I've used so far in my career, yo, it's so much better than this shit. Anyway, UE-57 pops the poor bastard. So possibly is camping out in the back. I think I can take a shot from one. I can take a shot from him once. Vespa is also moving into position, so now we really do need to be in position. Get ready to, prepare to do something. But then again, that speed and maneuverability not working for me. So when I crest this ridge, and I've been spotted, take my time, aim, you fucker. Yes, praise the Emperor. That shot penned when I needed it to. Did I kill his engine? I think I might have damaged his engine. Right, there's the D2. So where's the Vespa? Right, so the UE-57 is there. I'm going to proxy spot him so our artillery can perhaps get a shot on him. Come on, there you go. I'm also going to crest the ridge as well. Our artillery is awake. Good to see. Right, is he going to try and crest the ridge to have a potential shot at me? Possibly, but I want to spot him. And he knows he's being spotted. So he's awake, he knows what he's doing. But I'm keeping him lit up. Because I'm close to... boom. There you go. Spotted him and got him killed. So now it's a matter of waiting for a few seconds, and now I can hopefully crest the ridge. Time it's taking. Roll, 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 roll. Go right. There's the is, and I'm dead anyway. We won, though. I'm happy we won, but fuck this thing. And I don't give a rat's ass what some of you might say. If you can have a great game, let me know in the comments section down below. I'll happily watch your video and show that this thing is capable of doing something in a random replays event. But fuck this thing. Fuck this tank. The lack of mobility and speed and just the cresting of the ridge. I was hoping to gun it and like try and spot the artillery so I can quickly get a shot in, because I knew that he was going to be around there at some point. I kind of thought he was going to be further back on the line, but fuck this thing. I hate it now. Because it's just, it doesn't have the mobility. It's such a fucking downgrade. It's like, come on. I know it's a medium tank, so naturally it's going to have to be slower, but good God, the sluggishness of this thing at times, so annoying. In comparison to the Panzer IV, like Panzer IV-H, I mean, I know that's a tier 5, but it's based off this fucking chassis. Anyway, so naturally, I mean, for the game itself, for some reason, I mean, I got a Mastery Badge 3, don't know why. Experience-wise, I didn't get too much. Damage, once again, nothing much is special. But we did get something better than most, I suppose. Damage-wise, did more than most. Experience, I'd say we're just in the top 10. But yeah, I'm not such a big fan of this particular beast. And yeah, with the L24, things might have been different. I might have been able to one-shot the UE-57. Might not have, who knows. But it's still quite an atrocious tank, and I'm going to be very much glad to sell this piece of junk and never go near it again. So, this particular beast, I will happily say, if you have to get it, expect a difficult grind, or more importantly, if you don't have to play it at all, just, you know, you'll have everything unlocked necessary to free experience your way towards the Ausführung D anyhow. So just get rid of this. Ignore this tank. Just completely ignore it if you can. If you have to, go with this. My setup would be as such. This gun, best radio, whatever. Try and get as much as you can and just try it and play through this. Luckily for you, you don't, lucky or unluckily for you, you'll have to you spend about 4,000 experience getting this tank. But if you can skip it, just skip it, because it is such a piece of junk. Anyway, on to the next vehicle. Okay, so now that we've dealt with the shitty pile of wank, I mean the Panzer IV-A, now let's talk to this thing, which actually is so much better. Not just because it's tier 4, but for many other reasons. First of all, let's have a look at hit points. You have 350. Okay, it's not the best amount of hit points. Certainly, you might feel a bit lacking, considering now you're going into a very much nasty environment filled with loads of other nasty, monstrous creatures. But that said, 350 is still a pretty decent amount of hit points, and you can take a fair amount of punishment from low tier, and maybe a couple of 75mm high vol guns as well. You do weigh more though, being at 21.04 tons. I do have 2 equipment modules attached, so you know something's good if I put equipment on it. So yeah, my rule is if it's good enough for me to like, or at least me to enjoy, or for me that I need it, I will put it on. If I don't like it, I will not put any equipment on it. So anyway, so tonnage-wise, you're heavier, but the good news is, oh, would you look at that? The TRM. Where was that on this pile of crap? Anyway, so you do finally gain access once more to the TRM, which gives you a nice 440 horsepower. This, in combination with the weight, which gives you 20.92 horsepower per ton, so better than that shit, gives you a nice decent 42 kilometers per hour. Much better, by the way, for acceleration than the previous one. Oh, because you are heavy, it's not... Obviously, there is going to be some, you're not the fastest in the world, but you are certainly not it's not as sluggish. You can maneuver more. The traverse speed is exactly the same as the Ausführung A, so it's not astoundingly better, but it is better. It's good enough to be able to maneuver, and because you're not as sluggishly slow as the previous tank, you actually stand a fair chance of dodging and evading. Armor-wise, once again, it is an upgrade. Thank the Christ, it is an upgrade. Though, to be honest with you, this kind of armor upgrade, as you can see here, only 30 to the front, 20 to the sides, 20 to the rear. Same goes for the turret. This is the kind of stuff I would expect, or at least hope, on this thing. If this thing had the 30 to the front, 20 to the sides and rear, if that's what this thing had, it wouldn't be so bad, because that would be okay. I'd be like, yeah, fair enough, it's not great, but it is a Panzer IV. So, it's a bit of a shame that you see it on this thing versus this thing. But beggars can't be choosers, it's there, I'm happy, it's something. Unfortunately, as it's tier 4, you're not really going to be benefiting from this said armor much. Derp guns will nom on you, and you will still be an Easter egg for most high explosive shells. But that said, it's better than no upgrade, unlike the other shitty vehicle. I may seemingly have a thing against the Panzer IV-A, but considering that this thing is based off the same fucking chassis as this thing, look, no changes almost. Anyway, but regardless, this thing is, it's worth it. That's the point of what I'm trying to say here, is that if you do go through the 3A or don't, regardless, this is a much better vehicle and worth your time. So unfortunately, the armor aside, this thing, it could be better, but, tier 4 maneuverability is on your side here. Your turret traverse speed, the exact same as the 4A, which is good, and your view range, much better, admittedly once again by 10, which is good. Sadly though, the same radio range, so unfortunately there is no upgrade to the radio, but because of your maneuverability, it's not such an effect. But yeah, that would be I would say a major downside. The only major downside is that your radio range is pretty poor, but you will hopefully get, you'll be going up to getting a Panzer IV at H at some point, so your radio range, it's not. I would say of all the features, that's the biggest flaw when it comes to that sort of thing. So unfortunately, well, you're gonna have to live with the little shadow of that bastard 4A for a little bit of a time yet. Okay, so now that I've talked about the stats of this particular machine, let's have a look at the guns. Now, finally, at tier 4, God on high throws you a bone and gives you a much better selection of guns. I am of course talking about this particular gun to start with. This is the L60. Now you will have to grind this thing if you've only gone up this particular line, but it only costs you about 1,350 EXP, and you need that, because in comparison to the L42, it's a godsend. Yes, it doesn't have as good rate of fire, but everything else is great. It's got better penetration, better accuracy, and a better aiming time. So the accuracy alone is worth the grind. So get this gun as soon as you can and utilize it to grind out whatever other experience you want to get. Which the good news is with this particular tank, you'll only need to get the turret and the gun. So grinding through those, about 3,000 to 4,000 experience completely combined, maybe just 3,000, possibly 3,500 or close to 3,500 experience, which is much better to get with this gun. You then get only really one option. Now previously I would have said I've made an argument with this kind of gun, but considering how the games go nowadays, really this is the only option. The L43 75mm high velocity gun. Apologies, dry throat. Anyway, so this gun has, you know, admittedly less rate of fire, but a much better, if we get the other gun to compare, much less rate of fire, but much better penetration, much better damage, not as good accuracy, and a horribly atrocious aiming time. Like I said, this gun isn't great, which is why I would have argued the accuracy and, you know, aiming time. But considering the fact that you're in a tier 4 tank and in possibly a tier 6 game, to have the extra penetration and damage on your side may mean the difference between life and death. If you are perhaps a bigger fan of the L60s, then say, you know, if you really crave accuracy and aiming time, you could, I'm not saying it's a good idea, nor am I recommending it, that you stick with the L60, whatever, but really it's in my eye, I would say it's a no-brainer. Get the L43, work with this gun, try and work around its very limiting 2.5 second aiming time, because yeah, it's very, very limiting. It control you so bad. The RNG on this thing, if you're not aiming, is so shit. It really fucks you over some games. So yeah, this also kind of reinforces, like the previous tank, in armor as well, to, you know, take cover, mate. You know, like literally just take your time, aim, you know, take a medium to long range engagement distance. Never go brawling with this thing. These two tanks in particular never brawl at all. The armor just won't take it, your hit points won't take it, and your guns, well, they're not exactly designed for it. So definitely stay away from close quarters engagements and try and keep your distance. More so with this particular thing because of its very shit 2.5 second aiming time. Okay, that's enough talking side of this. Let's get into an actual game with this tank. So I will see you in a replay whilst I was grinding this thing. So here we are for the Ausfrong D's replay. We are on Ensk, one of my particular favourite maps. I don't know why, but this map just gives me so many good games. I just like this map. It's got a good bitmap mix of both close quarters and medium to long range engagements. So yeah. Personally, well, it's close to medium range engagement, so being more of an accurate statement there. Anyway, so game initially starts. A fair amount of people are going to try and make a push towards the 1, 2, 3 line. So I decide to push along towards this point as well, hoping to get some initial contact and some shots in. As you can see, the aiming circle way, way big. Unfortunately, taking its sweet time to go down. Enemy contacts have sighted M3 and an M5 Stuart. First shot gets into an M5 Stuart. I pop a shot, hoping to get the M5, but I get the M3 anyhow. M3, and he's gone. So one first kill, not too bad, not great damage, but still. Anyway, so I initially start making contact against this M3 Lee, but then I notice on the mini-map that there is a Panzer 1C making a break for our southern line. So I highlight to the team, and they're just going into the slugfest. So naturally, I'm going to try and make a pop shot for it. Now, the Panzer 1C makes a poor choice of opponent, and instead goes to try and get the AMX-38, but that's got armor. So I initially trying to go first towards getting a flanking shot, but the Panzer 1C is trying to make a break for it, trying to see if he can reload and get the hell out of the dodge. Taking damage on the way. Gets about close, but then, bam, he is dead. And then an M3 Lee appears alongside a few other friends, so I decide to try and help hold the line here. Ever aware of the Matilda that is only to our left. So at first I decide maybe I can get a couple of pop shots if it's focusing the side, but the Matilda sees what I'm doing, decides to say no, so I back away immediately, possibly blocking the Chi-Ha. So apologies to that, but the DPM and rate of fire meant that if he tracked me I was pretty much screwed. So anyway, though I do notice that on the 3 line we've cleared the area, so I then load the premiums and try and get a few shots into the side of the Matilda, trying to guarantee to make him either panic or to do a shit ton of damage to him. So I pop another shot. Now I actually make a mistake here because I for some reason think that our team can actually kill this Matilda, forgetting about the Matilda itself. So anyway, I push on to do some killing. I kill the M3 Lee, and the Matilda is racking up the kills in the background. I actually didn't notice this. I was focused too much on the T50. So I take my time, I wait for it, I pop a shot, do some damage, and I start to side scrape. Now this side scrape, I do well. He pops a shot, he tracks me, and I move into it, so I pop a shot to return fire, and then I cock up, and it ends up with me damaging myself. I then fire again, desperately trying to get another shot in. So yeah, first time successful, other 2 times completely stupid and failed to get the kill. So now all that's left is a T28 and a Valentine AT. So now, taking my time, I don't really want to get shot. I could have pushed up and been a bit more aggressive, but I wanted to try and see if I can get a bit more shot in. I move up, I fire, I go back, about ready to reload, going into it, and the bastard AMX-40 finally nicks the kill, and thus killing also an enemy tank, killing the Valentine AT as well. So a quick but pretty effective game, just showing a little glimpse and sort of showing an effective method on utilizing this particular tank in combat at tier 4. So mistakes aside, I probably could have done a bit more if I shot, for example, the Matilda that was racking up the kills on our side. But potentially we could have been outflanked by other stuff. So generally, not a bad game. Made a few mistakes here and there, but still just goes to show that I love this thing way more than the tier 3 tank. So anyway, I'll actually show you the results of that game. Okay, so here are the results from that game. First class mastery, which isn't too much. Fire for effect and other stuff, not so fussed about because, you know, it's just how the game goes. But one thing I am impressed that I achieved was this, shell proof. Which, considering how little hit points I have, is hilarious, but it's the fact that I got so many bounces for some weird reason that allowed me to get this award is what surprised me the most. So yeah, going into the team score, I was able to get the most experience and almost the most damage, but our opponents, namely being the Matilda, that I forgot to not... well, that ended up killing up way more than I'd previously thought, achieves the role of high caliber. So kudos to him in that respect. I probably should have aimed for him slightly earlier, having done it, but I thought he was going to be killed anyway. So anyhow, good game to our opponents, and well done to our team for being able to crush through. And so I will now take you back to the garage for the summary. So guys, there you have it. 2 tanks. One absolutely god-awful, and the other, well, actually not too bad. So if you're ever wanting to go up towards getting yourself a Panzer 4H, but you don't really want to go through a scout line, then I would recommend you going, you know, I would say go up through the Panzer 4 line, you know, the previous older Panzer 4 lines. Though, personally, I would say skip as much as possible, and just grind yourself, you know, get this thing free experienced and just grind on this, because this is a far better choice. And it makes the grind a lot less stressful in my eye. For me, I prefer this. I'd free experience this. I very rarely free experience vehicles, so for me to free experience this only after a couple of games of this, yeah, it's very much worth just free experience this. But if you can't, just focus on utilizing this gun with as best as you can. It's going to be shit, but it's not going to last long, and then hopefully you'll be able to enjoy this tank, which is far better. So anyway guys, thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this kind of content, do let me know in the comment section down below, clicking on the like button, and of course subscribing to the channel. If you yourself are a YouTuber, a World of Tanks player, or a YouTuber who does World of Tanks, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below if there's anything I can do to make the next video even more awesome than the last. Thank you very much for watching. This is Crap Hunter signing out. I'll catch you next time.